Just so my colleagues will understand, I welcome and express gratitude for your testimony, but the position that I've heard expressed today is essentially that you will comply with the subpoena, but only and solely so far as Saudi Arabia allows you to do so, which is not compliance with the subpoena. You say that you're between a rock and a hard place, but you've chosen sides. You've chosen the Saudi side, not the American side. So let me just begin with a couple of overall questions. We're going to have 7-minute rounds, and we'll have a second round if we have time. Let me ask each one of you, and I think it's a yes or no question. If this were a subpoena from the United States Department of Justice or the Securities and Exchange Commission, would your position be the same? Mr. Lesser, yes or no?
Senator, we're caught between two sovereigns.
No, it's a yes or a no.
Laws.
Would your position be the same?
I think we would be taking legal counsel, as we have here, on what to do in a situation where there are two sovereigns that have put us in an irreconcilable position.
Your position would be the same?
We would be taking counsel on how to handle the situation. We are caught between two sovereigns, and we are doing the best we can, including
Mr. Sternfeld, I don't mean to be rude, but I have limited time. Mr. Sternfeld.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, we treat complying with all subpoenas under U.S. law incredibly seriously.
It would be the same. Mr. Klein.
Thank you, Chairman. In the same way as we are here today, we would intend to comply fully, and we would intend to cooperate, and we would endeavor to work through all legal ramifications.
I'm going to take that as a yes. And Mr. Lesser, I'm going to take your response as a yes. It would be the same. Mr. Geary?
Senator, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we will fully comply with the subpoena and any other subpoenas.
So your position would be the same. Let me ask each of you also a yes or no question. If we were talking about China, China issues some administrative court order, Beijing, saying you can't comply with a lawful subpoena from a United States congressional committee, would your position be the same, Mr. Lesser?
Our position is that we have to follow the laws in which the countries in which we operate, and we're caught between two.
So your position would be the same. You would comply only to the extent that the People's Republic of China, the PRC, would permit you to do so.
I think we would be looking for court guidance on a situation like that. And
American court guidance?
On an issue of international comedy, I believe.
Mr. Sternfeld?
Senator, complying with the U.S. subpoena remains our highest priority while we continue to operate and abide by the laws of all the countries that we operate in.
You know, I'm going to take that as a yes also, even though I don't regard it as directly responsive. Mr. Klein?
Senator, thank you. We would intend, as we do here today, to cooperate fully, and we would also deal with, as we are today, expeditiously solving any legal constraint that we have.
So you would accept the order of the Chinese court telling you not to comply with the American subpoena. Mr. Geary?
Senator, I would, as I mentioned earlier, we will fully comply with the subpoena of the PSI. All we have asked for and been given by your staff is some time to work through the legal complexity, but PSI and the compliance with the subpoena is what we will do fully.
You know, I think a lot of the American public are going to be asking me and our colleagues when we go home, what are they hiding? What are they concealing? If it were a Department of Justice subpoena, or if it were a court order from China, their position would be the same. Is that a defensible position? I want to ask each of you, beginning with Mr. Lesser, what was your most recent amount of revenue in the last year from Saudi Arabia for your consulting service?
We don't disclose our revenues globally beyond our global revenues, Senator, so I can't share that information. We're a private company. With great respect, sir.
Do you calculate? Do you have those numbers?
Somebody probably does. I actually don't have that number, sir, Senator.
Mr. Sternfeld? What was the amount of revenue to McKinsey from Saudi Arabia in the last year?
Thank you, Senator. We operate in a regional model, so it's the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia.
You don't break out revenue numbers for Saudi Arabia?
We break out by the region. That region in total, I don't have the exact figure, but it's less than 10% of our total revenue, sir.
Well,
for the
I'm
entire
interested
region.
in Saudi Arabia.
I'd be happy to come back afterwards on that.
Mr. Klein?
Thank you, Senator. We don't have that number here, but I'm happy to provide it for you. It was a very small number relative to the rest of our business, and we're happy to provide that.
You'll provide that number. Thank you. Mr. Curie?
Senator, as I mentioned earlier, our contracts and fees are filed under FARA. I'll give you a sense of in 2022, our fees with PIF are just under $10 million.
Let me ask you, Mr. Curie, you have filed under FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act, correct?
Correct, Senator.
Mr. Sternfeld's, McKinsey has not filed under FARA. I have the respective filings. I'll put them on the poster board. For each of your companies, yours is totally blank. Teneo has filed under FARA. What's the justification for McKinsey not doing so?
Thank you, Senator. I can't comment on the page in mention, but I can answer the question, which as it relates to FARA. We take FARA incredibly seriously. We seek outside expert counsel on anything that might be FARA related. We sought expert counsel in this case, and given there was no policy or influence in any kind, determined that this was not FARA reportable.
Well, let me just say to colleagues, I think one of the findings that we're developing here is that FARA needs to be strengthened. And I'm not saying, Mr. Sternfeld, that you're violating the law, but certainly if Teneo thought it had an obligation to file under FARA, I'm questioning why McKinsey didn't. I'm not saying that you're not doing so violates the law, but maybe the law should be strengthened so that there is a legal obligation under these circumstances that's clear and unmistakable. You have said, all of you, that you've produced thousands of documents. No question that you have, as recently as last night, literally. We haven't been through all of them, but we've been through some of them. And a lot of them are press clippings, they are press releases, they are public documents, all sorts of stuff, and then a lot of them are, they look like this. That's not responsive to a subpoena. When you say you are making every effort to comply, that's laughable. So, you know, we will continue this conversation with you, but again, I come back to the basic question here. What are they hiding? Is that Saudi Arabia and national security? Investments in Live Golf is a matter of national security to the kingdom? Hard to believe. Senator Johnson.
So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the fact you're holding up those